it was done in an awkward way. The Senate wouldn't get 2/3 vote to ratify the treaty, so they passed a joint resolution by simple majority in the House and Senate. Constitutional scholars then and even now scratched their head about whether this was constitutionally appropriate. In 1993, and Sherry will talk more about this, Congress passed and President Clinton signed an apology resolution recognizing that the overthrow had been illegal and in violation of international law. This is a very powerful enactment because you rarely see the United States saying that anything that it had ever done was illegal or a violation of international law. Well, anyway, Hawaii becomes a territory in 1898, and finally, after many years of struggle, Congress recognizes that the Native Hawaiians need some special attention when they pass the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act in 1921, which does allocate some land back to the Hawaiians, about 200,000. So this was a good thing in the sense that it recognized that Native Hawaiians had rights, but the implementation of it was flawed because the lands themselves were the marginal lands, usually very dry lands without water, and have not served to enable the Hawaiians to get back on their feet. Prince Kuhio played a huge role in the enactment of this statute, and it's interesting to go back to see his arguments as to how he presented the case for the statute, because he goes back to the Mahele and he says, look, in the Mahele, the reason that the Hawaiians deserve land is because the Mahele was a flawed and is an unfinished process, because they were supposed to get 1/3 of the land, but they didn't get it. So this is from a magazine article he wrote and testimony he presented. So he says that these lands in which a 1/3 interest of the common people had been recognized but ignored in the division, and which had reverted to the crown, presumably in trust for the people, were then taken over by the Republic of Hawaii. So the Republic of Hawaii glommed together, mushed together the crown lands with the government lands and called them all public lands. And the United States then received those. They were ceded to the United States in 1898, 1.8 million acres. And the federal government has about 350,000 acres in military bases and national parks, and the state controls most of that. So most of it is still intact, and that's the good news, because it still is available to be returned to the native people. And Prince Kuhio kept presenting that message, and Congress accepted it. So Representative Curry, who chaired the House Committee on the Territories, said these crown lands never really vested in the federal government except in trust for the common people. So this was recognized long ago, but it's still an unfinished process now. 91 years later, we still haven't finished this process. So the Mahele is an unfinished process, and the apology resolution, as Sherry will explain, calls for a reconciliation, and that is an ongoing